the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
See that happen. So that's not a wrinkle in Josh Heupel's offense where, you're a left tackle one play and a right tackle the next play. I don't think we're going to see that. I think those.
Do we see a fake wrinkle on Monday in the scrimmage? We hear coming out like just to throw some people off the scent, some fake wrinkles.
They're so beat up right now. I don't know what they're going to do in the scrimmage. It's going to be pretty fascinating to watch or to hear what happens in terms of just A, who's out there, and B, how do you scrimmage? Typically this scrimmage is kind of a play ball scrimmage. This may be more situational because of where you are numbers wise. You're just beat up in a lot of spots. And now it's going to be some great opportunities for young players. I mean, with the news that Miles Kitselman's out, I think you're probably going to be cautious with Ethan Davis, even though he probably needs to work to establish himself. But, where's Cole Harrison? Where's those two freshmen? Buddy, you can get all the reps you want if you're Jack Van Doorslayer. Deshaun Brame's coming off a bit of an injury, so they're probably cautious there. So Van Doorslayer might set a record for tight end reps in a scrimmage. And, they got a couple places like that are, tough right now. But there are a bunch of young guys getting opportunities, which is important because I think college football, if you're gonna recruit high-level classes and not go heavy with your funding in the portal, then you're going to become younger football teams. And I think you're going to see some younger football teams around the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. And I think that's just where it's going. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. I think you're going to get sloppier football because of this. Like, I think I was listening to Kirby talk to Josh Pate about it. Just kind of like you have to kind of accept it, I think. It was just kind of like that you don't have, because there's a bunch of turnover on their roster. I mean, we talk about like Georgia's coming to town here in week 3. I mean, whole new wide receiver room. They're thin at running back. They're replacing some key guys on the offensive line. Gunnar Stockton, it'll be his first SEC start when he comes to comes to Knoxville in week 3, but it's just part of the deal. I mean, they're playing some freshmen last year. I mean, and they've started like the Malachi Starks, KJ Boldens. There have been guys who have been there because you can't just stack these 4 and 5 stars year over year and just keep plugging and playing juniors and seniors, because every coach, like Josh Heupel included, they want to play the vets. Like they want to play older players. Everyone does. And you see it works in basketball, like Barnes and company, like veterans. It's just a better winning strategy. They're stronger, bigger, faster, been in the sport, and getting those meaningful reps matters. But on the flip side, to your point about the scrimmage part of it, in terms of like this being an opportunity for a lot of young guys, especially the tight ends now, I mean, I think it's important because the portal is about to open back up in the spring, and we've kind of wondered, is it going to be a cornerback, a running back, a receiver, offensive line, like where they a defensive end, like, or interior, I guess is probably more likely, but like, where are you most thin? Where are the young guys at here in the spring? And I think that's something that hopefully can be instructive is, do we really need to add a corner to this room? Do we need to go get a Kamal Haddon this cycle? Or is Trey Poteet and or Ty Redmond ready? Can they handle QB3, CB3, CB4, and we're okay? We don't have to spend that money there. You know what I mean? Like, I do think this is kind of helpful. Like, you don't want to be decimated by injury in the spring, but you also kind of need to know where these receivers are, these young receivers, and these corners are, I think. Yeah, and nickel too.
Yeah, and I think probably receiver more than corner, because I think you've proven that you can play younger players in the secondary.
Yeah.
I think you got a little more confidence there. I mean, you played Boot Carter as a freshman. Ricky Gibson started a game as a freshman 2 years ago. So you've been a little more comfortable being younger back there. You haven't been very comfortable with freshman receivers and young receivers. I mean, Mike Matthews played 177 snaps, and I was on this podcast, and we talked about it on our podcast. Is this the week Mike Matthews? Is this the week? No. Is it? No. Is this going to be the week? I don't think so. So they don't – I think Braylon Staley made an interesting comment when he met the media earlier this week about how you have to be able to adjust so much on the fly so fast. And they're asking these guys at receiver to read stuff pre-snap and post-snap in terms of some of the route combinations and what they do. And I think it takes some time because it's different than what they've done in high school. In high school, the call is you run this route. Well, now you got choice routes. So you're deciding, if this guy's playing inside coverage, I'm going to break it outside. If you're playing outside leverage, I'm going to run a slant here. I've got to be on the same page with the quarterback. We've got to figure it out. we're both making the read at this point in time. It's a little harder as opposed to taking a corner and saying, hey, man up and go play man. So I think the bigger question for me is, where do you think you are with your second year receivers, and where do you think Travis Smith is, and where do you think Rodarius Jackson is, and where's Chris Brazzell in his second year? Do you feel like you need a vet? Here's the other thing. Can you get a vet receiver ready if he doesn't get here until May? It's easier to get a corner ready, So now you're sitting there going, well, okay, here's this receiver out there. Well, how big of an impact can he make? Can you get him ready in 4 months to do all the things that we're talking about? It takes almost a year to figure out. So I think you're looking at that. I do think you have to look at defensive tackle. I think Hobbs going to be a good player. I like Jackson Moy. I like Bryson Eason. I think Dominic Bailey can slide inside. I would love to see what Nathan Robinson can do, but he's got to stay healthy, and he's not been able to stay healthy. Jamal Wallace has not practiced this spring. I'm not sure where he's at physically, medically, all those things. So now all of a sudden, you don't want to play Dom Bailey inside every snap. So, okay, we can't live in rabbits the whole time and slide a strong side in to play defensive tackle the entire time we're here. Okay, we got Isaiah Campbell. Is he really going to be ready as a freshman? Is Ethan Utley really going to be ready as a freshman? Or do we need a 20 to 25 snap guy who's been in the college weight room for 2 years, who's played somewhere and can step in and be a rotational guy for us? I think that's what I think. Suddenly that position's in a little more focus than it probably was in January, just because of Wallace and the fact that Nathan Robinson's not been able to stay, healthy to this point. So exactly where are you body-wise? You want more than 3, and they're just kind of there right now. I mean, who's 4, who's 5? Maybe you don't go 5 deep, but who's 4? Because you really need 2 deep at that position. And I think that's kind of coming into focus here the back half of spring.
Yeah, I mean, you lost 3 of your top 4 snap getters at that spot: Amari, Omar, and Elijah. I mean, Elijah's the one you wanted back, right? Because that would have exactly what you're talking about, the 20 to 25 snaps. We've got David Hobbs, who's ready to step into a bigger role. Jackson Moy can step into a bigger role. Bryson Eason's gotten better and better each and every year. You're we don't need you just need someone who can gobble up a little bit of those snaps before the Utleys and the Campbells are ready for bigger load. I'm surprised. I guess they have a lot of young talent there, and would it surprise you though if Campbell or one of those freshmen did end up? Because how much did David Hobbs play? He played a little bit as a freshman, right?
He played more and more. In the ideal world, here's what you wanted, and here's what you thought you had, and why you thought you were going to be okay. You were going to go Eason, you were going to go Moy, you were going to go Hobbs. You were going to go Nathan Robinson / Jamal Wallace in there as 4 and 5. And then, okay, I got Campbell who can come in and be my 5th, 6th guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if Wallace is, because you never really knew what you had in Wallace or what you don't have. Even if it's just Nathan Robinson, you have 4, then all of a sudden your 5th guy is a freshman. You're okay with that.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with that. Now, the question you have is, are you okay with your 4th guy being a freshman? Potentially, because you don't know if Robinson can stay healthy and you don't know where Jamal Wallace is. That's why defensive tackle has taken a different. You're fine with a freshman being your 5th guy. Mm-hmm. You're totally good with that because you want to work him in. That's what happened with, you go back to Hobbs' freshman year and you look who they had, and it was Omari, and it was Bryson, and it was Omar Norman Lott, and it was Elijah Simmons. And all of a sudden, hey, Davin Hobbs, you're our 5th guy. You get 5 snaps. Mm-hmm. As the season goes along, we might take you up to 10. Or something to that effect, that type of deal, which is what you want to do. Right now, you may feel like, okay, in the first quarter rotation, now here we're going to count on Isaiah Campbell. Do you think he's going to be ready to be in the first quarter rotation against Syracuse? If not, then you need to be in the portal probably finding a guy, unless you're just going to roll the dice and say Nathan Robinson, who I think is I think he's got a lot of talent. He's just not been able to stay healthy. And so are you going to roll the dice that he can stay healthy?
I mean, maybe you're rolling the dice of the combo of Nathan Robinson staying healthy and or Isaiah Campbell being a 4 or 5-star guy ready to step in for those 20, 25 snaps.
Hard position to step in and play 25 snaps.
Yeah.
That's a really hard position to ask somebody to do that. I'm not saying it can't happen.
But there are a lot worse options than Isaiah Campbell being.
There are. I mean, which is a credit to what you put together in your recruiting class, which is why you're not sitting here going, we're going to take any walking, breathing, snorting defensive tackle available in the portal. If it's the right guy, then you go take somebody. I think you look at taking a defensive tackle in the portal every year because I don't think it's bad. I mean, it's a hard position to play. It's a lot of physicality.
It's not fun.
I don't think there's anything wrong with always adding a veteran if you can add a veteran. I mean, Jackson Moy was a luxury a year ago. You didn't really need him, but it was nice to have him. Now you really like to have him, but it was nice to have him in the rotation.
Wasn't the plan to kind of redshirt him, like to not even he was just too good.
And he was good enough to say, hey, he can be 4 or 5 for us. We're good. Like, let's go play with that guy.
Well, I also think you brought up the Don Bailey part of it, and this can kind of transition to another part of what I was looking at here, is with James Pierce not being around. And I think you and I talked about this, and I was banging this drum last year, and I didn't like going. I felt like Tennessee tried to moneyball strong side defensive end last year, where they tried to replace Tyler Barron in the aggregate, and I didn't agree with it.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.